I'm Tim Watson. This is Copenhagen Fields, a layout built by members of the Model Railway Club in London. The layout has been building over the last third of a century. We started building it in 1984 and it's still a work in progress. So the layout is set in the between the wars period, and most of the stock is scratch-built or heavily modified commercial models. All of the track is hand-built to 2mm scale standards, so the wheels and the track are all very fine. And of course the trains have to be scale-length trains so that they look right for the Great Northern Main Line. The actual model itself is built to 2mm to the foot scale at the front, but the scale diminishes rapidly towards the back to 1:450 scale, for instance. So we have a lot of perspective, a lot of scenic modelling in different scales to make it look bigger than it really is. So King's Cross is just at the one end of the layout, and Peterborough and the rest of the world is to the other end. The layout is a challenge in every direction. Making the track work has been challenging, but we have people who make very good track work with us, and making the locos reliable. A loco will do a mile and a half, real mile and a half of running over the course of a weekend show. So that means that the locos have to be incredibly reliable, and that is a big challenge. The scale is what I've been modelling in for the last 40 years. So it's actually a given that that would be what we wanted to do, and you would be pushed to make this model in this sort of form in a larger scale. We certainly underplay the detail at the back of the model so that it doesn't intrude, and also the colours are very carefully muted towards the back as well, so that the layout has that distance effect of a fairly smoky London, albeit on a clear day. The scratch building of the layout is basically, a lot of the buildings of course are made to suit the prototypes. So if we look at the layout, you'll find that the buildings where we actually have information, we copy as they are. If we don't have the information, then we'll use aerial photographs, ordnance survey sheets, and get as much information as we can from historical data. Most of the locos are scratch built. Some are built very much from scratch with the wheels and the whole thing being made from pieces. Nowadays there are a lot of very good commercial models, and some of those are now being converted to run fine scale, but they nearly always require a new chassis to work on the layout. The commercial models have improved dramatically in the last few years, and they're near enough correct for scale, so we run them. The early locos that run on the layout are all hand-built, and the early stock is all hand-built because commercially that's never going to be an attractive proposition. The layout has a unique fiddle yard system in that the rail is brass strip, and that is something that we developed the machine to make the brass bend so that it goes down flat onto the layout, and the actual trains run on this brass strip which is set to gauge. It means that it's very, very robust, and if something comes adrift it actually stays on the brass rail until you come round to be able to put it on. And it means that the components of the baseboards can be stowed very easily, and they don't get damaged in transit. And it's quite a quick way of laying track, but it's not cheap, because brass is expensive, especially nowadays. The layout is built by members of the Model Railway Club. It does get put up in the Model Railway Club from time to time, and if you want to see it, look at the club website, and that will show you when the layout is up. And often you'll see it better in the club than you will at an exhibition. Albeit we're working on it at the time. So if you look up the Model Railway Club, we are the oldest model railway club in the world. Just look up the Model Railway Club and you'll get the Google details on it, no problem.
Harold's about to go off to see a signal box on the Severn Valley Railway, and obviously signal boxes are a very fundamental part of the steam era scene, and so I've been building a 7mm scale signal box, and I thought I'd show you around it. The signal box kit I've got here is from Polac models, and it's laser cut in Romark, which is a kind of hard white ABS style plastic that you can laser cut. You can't laser cut standard styrene, it melts and smells badly and doesn't cut cleanly, where Romark does. And essentially, this is quite a simple kit. It glues together. There is an MDF core to give it a bit of strength in the base, but the walls are all pre-cut, the windows are all pre-cut. If you can build a plastic kit, you can slowly work your way around and build something along these lines. The longest job, if I'm honest, is actually glazing the windows. All the panes are cut individually, but you have to glue them into the holes. So it's a little bit of a fiddly job there, but certainly looks the part. I've actually painted with enamels and then scraped some wall filler over it to fill in the mortar lines. It's quite challenging sometimes to paint laser cut walls because the mortar lines are properly scale width, which in real life means they're very, very narrow indeed. Now the kit itself is complete. It even includes the tiling, which is a sticky back cardboard, so you get strips of tiles and you just overlay them and build up the roof that way. So you get a nice texture on the bit that most models show to the public. That's great. But what it doesn't come with is it doesn't come with the all-important interior. Taking the roof off, the interior is made of etched brass, and it comes from 7 models. Each of these levers has to be folded up. Once you've done that, you've got all the important bits of the inside of the signal box. So you've got the lever frame, you've got the block instruments, you've got a table and a desk. The only thing that's not part of the etched world is the signalman, and he is a 3D printed and scanned person from Model U. The signalling interior, quite important. As I say, you look around a real box, you see an awful lot of detail in there, and the big problem is, of course, you've got these whacking great big windows. You've got to put something in there because you can really notice it if it's not. It's not a quick build. It's not like an Airfix kit where you could sort of shake the box and it's finished. It's a kit that definitely pays to take time over and enjoy the process of building it, putting it together fairly slowly. I would think most people could build the basic box quite comfortably in a week's worth of evenings and perhaps a little bit of the weekends. That glazing really does take some time. And then the interior, again, not too far off because there's quite a lot of work to do, especially on the painting, because signal levers have very specific colours, and so you've got to make sure you've got plenty of colours going on in there. But once you've done it, what a fantastic looking model, perfect for sitting on it beside the line on any steam era layout.
Last month, you may recall, we visited the Severn Valley Railway for a diesel cab ride. Well, whilst we were there, we took the opportunity to have a look round Bridgnorth signal box. Well, here we are inside this beautiful signal box at Bridgnorth, and I'm here with Bob.
Hi.
Hello, pleased to meet you.
Thank you.
So, I can see you've got a busy schedule on today. When did you start?
Personally, I started 25 years ago.
Okay.
I used to come up about once a month then, so I used to do about 10 turns a year. But I'm now retired, so I now do about 50 or 60 turns a year.
So there are 7 boxes on the line. I'm guessing you're not permanently based inside the one at Bridgnorth here?
No. You tend to start on one of the country boxes because they're one of the simpler boxes. And as you get more expertise, you graduate to more difficult boxes. This will probably be the next ones you would come to after the country boxes. And then finally you would graduate down to the south end of the line where the boxes are slightly more complicated.
Okay, so this is sort of like an intermediate box. It's not the sort of really simple basic passing loop box, but at the same time it's not the top end, everything's going at the same time sort of box.
That's right.
So I guess it's a nice balance for a sort of a day testing your skills at making sure everything's running on time.
You're keeping your hand in, and there's enough to do here, yes.
Okay.
You've got the engine yard, so there's engines moving on and off the shed as needed. This being a terminus as well, engines are running around from one end of the train to the other, preparing for departure. So there's something going on most of the time.
I guess there's plenty to look out of the window at as well, because you've got the good view of the shed.
Oh, yes.
See what's on steam.
Yeah.
So for the viewers at home, let's take a look round Bob's signal box now and just talk us through some of the equipment. So first of all, these.
Okay, right. Well, that's the single line tyres electric train token equipment. We have single line between us and the next station down, which is Hampton Load.
So this is just a single passing loop then, isn't it?
At Hampton Load, yes. Yeah. We have to have some means of ensuring that there's only ever one train on the line at one time. And we do that by means of this equipment. Mm-hmm. What happens is, if the line is clear, I will ask Hampton Load by means of a bell code whether we can send a train down to Hampton Load. If he's happy to accept it, he will reply with the same code, and at the end of that he will hold down on the last beat. That releases one of those tokens out of that equipment. I take the token and I place it into one of the hoops there, which is a carrier, and I give that to the driver. And the equipment ensures that only one token can be out at any one time, and that token must be carried by the driver whilst he's on the single line. So that ensures the safety of the train. When it gets to the other end, the driver gives that up to the signalman at Hampton Load and puts it back into his equivalent piece of equipment, and we're then in a position to send either another train from this direction or one from Hampton Load to me.
Well, you'll have seen these in use from our cab ride in the Class 33 previously, but looking at your frame now, how many have we got? It's a 30 lever frame?
Yep.
So in total, how many of these are used?
These are all used.
Well, if you just move around this way, you can see here we've got the track plan of Bridgnorth. So in order, I'm guessing from 1 to 30, is there any particular order that they're set up?
Well, you can see the diagram there, and all the points and all the signals have got their respective numbers. They correspond to the levers that you see in the frame. So, for instance, if a train was coming into platform 1, which will be the next one coming in, we would pull points numbers 12 and lock it with 11, which would direct the train into platform 1. We would then pull signal number 1, which is the outer home, and signal number 2, which is the inner home, and that would allow the train into the platform.
So I'm guessing the one that's furthest away from you is signal 22, am I right? 563 yards?
That's right, yeah. That's the section signal going back out towards Hampton Load.
So I'm guessing this signal here has got a little bit more resistance in the cable compared to the ones that are in the platform.
Yes, that's true. The further away they are, the harder they are to pull. But there's no particular problem with any of the signals here.
Now if we take a look here at Bob's books, this is for Bridgnorth obviously, you can see the box name in there. So talk us through, every time that a train passes through here, what are you taking note of?
Right, well this is the train register. It's actually a legal requirement to maintain this book. Every time we send or receive a bell code, it's noted in the book. So the first thing, as I've said before, if we want to send a train down to Hampton Load, we send him a bell code, which in that case for a stopping passenger train would be 3-1. He replies, and we note the time underneath the column under regulation 4.
I'm intrigued. What is it?
That's just a concentrator. That's a telephone system, basically.
So not in use, I'm guessing.
It is in use.
It is in use. Okay.
If you look along the top there, those are the particular telephones which are connected to it. Now that's Hampton Load telling me that the train has arrived. I reply. He asks me if it's okay to send one back in this direction. I hold down on the last beat. That releases the token in Hampton Load signal box. You've got a pointer at the top, a little indicator that moves.
Ah, okay.
And you can see the needle deflect as he takes the token out at the other end.
Right, so I guess that's why you were holding it down, because until that's stopped moving around,
yes,
he hasn't managed to take
it. But
you
give him a certain amount of time in order to take the token out of his equipment.
Okay. So it's all quite mechanical but electric at the same time, interlocking, and it's pretty much foolproof unless something breaks.
It is foolproof. lines that have been equipped with this, there has not been any accidents in the last
I mean,
100
the
years.
system's used in India as well, isn't it, on many of the railways and across the world.
I've been up on the Darjeeling line and operated the signal box at Darjeeling, and it's exactly the same equipment as you see here.
So your passion is really for signalling.
It is indeed, yes.
Well, Bob, thank you very much for your time and for taking us on a guided tour around your signal box.
My pleasure.
And if you're ever at the Severn Valley Railway and you visit Bridgnorth, give Bob a wave.
It's the middle of October and it's the National Festival of Railway Modelling here at Peterborough. And taking a chance to come and have a look on the Hornby stand at the latest development, latest livery samples, and to talk to researcher Paul Isles, who you may well have seen before. But first of all, I want to ask you, Paul, the H-Class that we've got in here, it's absolutely superb. Now, the first we saw of that, I think, was about 18 months ago on your Engine Shed blog?
Something like that. I know we did an early tease a couple of years back with a pair of feet and a pagoda top that got everyone guessing. But yeah, I think it would be about 18 months.
Yeah. So obviously that was your research stage when you were carrying out all of the measurements, getting the photos. And here we've got near enough the end result.
The end result. So you've got approval samples. These are the final samples that you've got in there. So this is what you're going to get when you open your box. We're expecting delivery of them end of the month, so they should be in the shop sort of first week in November.
Okay. Well, so by the time you're seeing this, they should be out there. This is a beautiful livery, the pre-grouping South Eastern Chatham livery that's on there. Really, really vibrant, beautiful lining. But I've just got to say about that dome, the finish that you've got on there, that is really bright, isn't it?
That is, yeah. It's work to treat. I mean, we're pleased with it. It's down to the lads that I work with that come up with it. So yeah, it's good to see a representation to that quality of what we do.
But that's the pretty one. The more work-a-day one is sat over here with the pull push set as well. So that's going to be available as well before the end of the year?
Yeah, it should be in about the same time. We're actually doing a train pack with a relevant push-pull set off the top of my head. Usual thing, can't remember the numbers, but that'll come through later. But you've got every opportunity. You've got the late BR crested ones done first so that we can get the push-pull sets fixed up with them.
Okay. So those are imminent. Let's take a look at a few more items which are a little bit behind that, but in the not too distant future. And moving along a little, these are some of the latest livery samples, apart from the William Stanier on the Duchesses, which is final signed off one.
Yes. Yeah. So we've got, as you say, we've got William Stanier, which is signed off sample. Then the Athol and City of Birmingham are our decoration samples. So there's still a little bit of work to do on those. We had to retrieve those from a cabinet to bring them out with us.
Yeah. But they've certainly come on leaps and bounds. They were announced at Worley Show last year.
Right, yeah. So we're end of November and here we are. We're end of October. We've got Stanier coming through hopefully within the next week. So,
is it really?
Yeah,
okay.
Along with Athol.
Right, okay.
It's not bad, 11 months from...
Yeah. And these are a significant change from earlier models of Hornby Duchess that you may be familiar with, that you've got the different framing at the front end as well. And any other differences we should be looking for?
Well, you've got the framing at the front, you've obviously got the cab, you've got the pony truck, you've got all the little differences that come in with those later models. We tooled for the later models and then worked our way back through the range. So everything is newly tooled. There's nothing left of the old Duchess in there.
Okay, all right, splendid. And then just a wee bit further on over there, that we've got the new IEP, which was kept closally under wraps again until Worley last year, wasn't it?
That's right. I mean, this has been 2.5 years in the making. Obviously, Hitachi we've worked very closely with. They've been a great company to work with. They go into service tomorrow on the Great Western, so ours will be due in About Christmas time, so we're
Well,
not far behind.
That's not bad at all, is it? Yeah. So I suppose it was quite interesting to the research and the design stage with a brand new train as opposed to historic items.
It's a completely different kettle of fish, because obviously you're working at the speed that the manufacturer is.
Yeah.
It's the same with liveries, so you get so far and then you need the livery details to go through, so you end up having to extract that information out of the train operating company.
Yeah.
So it is a different kettle of fish. It's far different from going up to the search engine at the NRM and pulling out some plans and collecting some photos.
So manufacturers, in this case Hitachi, do they actually want to be involved with model making then?
Well, Hitachi were very keen to be involved with us. We worked with them on the Javelin.
Yeah.
They were pleased with that, and they were very receptive. I think it was one of those cases where they were waiting for us to ask them if we could do the IEP, and we were waiting for them to give us the go-ahead to do it. So it's really positive feedback, and the people we dealt with have been fantastic. They've opened up. We had Old Dolby opened up to us for measuring, taking photographs. So that's the type of cooperation that doesn't come cheap. They've been really good to us.
Well, that's brilliant. But of course it's a livery as well that we're now seeing reflected in other products, obviously with the HST and the Mark III coaches to go with it as well. I've got to say, that livery looks absolutely superb. I think you've done a grand job. It's a little bit glossed up in some ways on the Mark IIIs, isn't it?
It is, yes. And our product designer wanted to do that so that we could get the matte stripes in, make that more prominent, or try and reflect how they are in real life. It's an interesting move, but it works. The feedback's been really good about it.
I think so.
It's, I think it emphasises how, as a development team, we work together. So, from CAD to product design to doing the liveries, it really is a team game, to be honest.
Yeah. So it's been a really interesting year from a development point of view with Hornby, as we say, from Worley last year through this 12-month period where there's quite a lot coming through to market imminently. Indeed. Of really significant stuff. So I just want to say, Paul, thanks very much indeed for the update. Keep up the good work, obviously with the quality. Let's get over it. Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much indeed.
Cheers mate.
Bye.
BRM people, Jason Schron here from Rapido Trains Inc. I have a mission for you. There's a train show next year, 2018. It's called the Great British Train Show. I need you to build a layout for it. There's a problem. It's in Canada. Here's your mission. You gotta build the layout, then you have to bring it to Canada. We'll bring you here, economy class, and layout has to fit on the plane. See if you can do it. All right, I'm in the wrong place. Bye.
Well, unfortunately that's all folks, but be sure to check out the extras menu where you'll see a guided tour of the different layouts at the Peterborough show and the different control systems used.
I'm here at the Peterborough show, and I'm going to have a bit of a look around at some of the layouts, but not from the front, which is the area we normally look at to appreciate the scenery and all the modelling, but I'm going to go around the back and have a look at people's control panels, see if there's anything we can learn about the design and the build, and see if we can find out why they've chosen to do things the way they have. I'm here with Neil from the Little Layout Company, looking at the control panels he builds into the layouts that he produces for customers. I was wondering, Neil, if you can just talk us through the control panel, how it works, and also tell us what sort of components and everything you're using.
Yeah, sure.
It's a really neat setup, this one.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the Little Layout Company, we build bespoke model railways for people. We want our control panels to be as simple for us to install as for those to diagnose as well. So the customer at the end, if he's got an issue with his control panel, he can easily diagnose it and fix it himself. We use a Cobalt Alpha system, no soldering, it's very, very simple to use. So we use a Cobalt IP classic analog 3-point motor.
Right.
2 wires straight into the panel at the back, which goes into a little alpha switch system, which has got a plug and play lead off the system straight into the back of the switch. We use these because there's no soldering at all, and we can just easily change a component very simply, even at a show or a customer's layout. We can just take a switch out, unplug it, plug it back in again, and away you go.
And so they're very maintainable,
very
aren't
maintainable,
they? And
yeah.
I like the way they're actually lit up. Now I'm guessing that the lights indicate which tracks been selected.
Yeah. So with the alpha system, you get 2 switches for a point, 1 switch for left, 1 switch for right. So if we press this one, so we've got a line coming down through the yard, this one indicates going straight to the left. And so you automatically know what route you're running at.
Yeah, and it's quite neat. I mean, I say they're very brightly lit. It's really obvious. I mean, it's very close to a real railway's mini track plan, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's great for people to know where their layout's running and what they're doing, and without having lots of LEDs and relays, mapping locos and trains where they're going. You can visually look straight away at the panel.
Now all the panels are fitted into the fronts of the layouts.
That's right.
That's presumably because the layouts are designed to be operated from the front, but it makes good access for the back, I see as well. And if we look around the back, we can see how all the components go together.
That's right. And these boards that we build, we can reverse them round up to the back as well. So we have a face plate that goes on the front. We take this out, undo the clips on the back, put it on the other side, and we can reverse it. And reverse it
what's the face plate made of?
It's just made of 3mm foam board, which is used for signs. They use it in the sign building industry.
And what's the line? How are the lines made?
They're made from a digital print. We use any rail program to design our layouts. We just take all the gubbins out of the program, and they print it straight from that program.
Oh, brilliant! So it really is a very accurate track plan for the layout, and then you just drill holes in it and pop the buttons in.
That's right. Yeah.
That's very neat, and thanks very much for your
time.
Problem.
Thank you. Cheers.
I'm here with Steve of Newchapel Junction, and this is a sizable O-gauge layout with several control panels, and we're starting off, I think, with the largest one.
Yes, this is the largest panel, which controls the main station area, and it is a fairly prototypical entrance-exit panel. Each route is set by the operator pressing an entrance button, and then within 2 or 3 seconds he presses his exit for that route, and the automatic equipment selects the route between those 2 buttons, illuminates it on the diagram, and the command goes electrically out to the baseboards to act on that command, setting the points, the signals and the track feeds all to give that route.
That's like how a power box works. I mean, this is a very traditional railway, and actually that's quite a power box system. Quite a complicated thing to build, I'm guessing.
Yes, the panel that you're looking at contains about 400 relays in the box underneath, about 1,500 metres of wire, if I remember rightly. I think we ordered 3 500-metre drums of cable to wire it all up. There are 4 racks inside, all of which contain relays, terminal boards, fuse boards, outgoing terminal panels. And yes, it was a year's work to build it. But the end result is, as you can see in the pictures, the operator pushes his entrance, his exit, and the route establishes between the 2.
So it actually makes operating the layout surprisingly simple. He can really concentrate on running trains rather than trying to work out how the panel works.
Exactly so. He rather than become a signalman, he more becomes a train regulator, in that he is merely picking routes and then turning up the speed controller to make the engine take that route. The interlocking is doing all the hard work for him.
So in theory, nothing can ever go wrong?
In theory, but of course practice is always a different matter. Suffice to say, all the routes are interlocked with any opposing route, all the points are interlocked, all the signals are interlocked. So in theory, yes, it's foolproof, but human nature being what it is, accidents being what they are, there is always a redundant risk.
Yeah.
But we like to think it's a small one.
I have to ask, how long did it take to build?
The new station, which is about the end 30 feet of the layout, the end we're standing at, has taken about 4 years to build.
And that includes the panel, which presumably was planned in as part of the whole build?
Oh, indeed it was. The new station, the new panel, it's all been commissioned in stages. At one time we had a dreadful arrangement where it was part new, part old, and it was a nightmare to operate. But now, as of about a month ago, we are now fully commissioned to the new layout, controlled by the new panel, and everything is now greatly easier to operate.
And I noticed the operator is putting a sort of red cap over some of the switches occasionally.
Yes, he does that because he's probably left an engine in an unsafe place.
Yes, I can see there's an engine sitting there where that red cap has appeared.
He's brought a light engine down number 1 platform and dumped it at the bottom end, awaiting the motive power depot operator retrieving that engine and putting it on shed. To reduce the risk of his running the next train into that light engine, he's put a cap over the button that he would use to set that unsafe route.
Very clever. And however, this isn't the only panel on the layout, so let's go and have a look at the one on the branch station.
Certainly, yes.
Okay, now we've moved to what I assume is the branch station.
Yes, that's right. This is a branch line which is available to run with the main layout. It can also, the main layout can run without the branch where space constraints don't permit the two. We much prefer to run the whole layout where space allows, as the branch is such a variation from the main station area.
It's a very different beast, isn't it? And looking at the panel, it's a very different panel, because now, although we still have lights on the panel indicating the route, we're now looking at physical levers and bells and a block instrument.
Yes, the branch is, as you say, lever frame controlled. It is a mechanically interlocked lever frame. The diagram merely shows which track sections are electrically energized, and also, by inference, the lie of the points.
Right.
If I just lift the lid on the interlocking, you can see underneath the locking table. Beneath the table is the mechanical locking frame, which comprises the bars, the tappets, the dogs, all of which provide the interlocking.
Excellent. And is that a scratch-built unit there?
No, it's built from a proprietary kit.
Oh, right.
But needless to say, one never puts the kit together quite as they come. One always modifies it.
I assume simply to make the interlocking work, you have to do a lot of work yourself.
Oh, yes. Yes, the tappets all have to be hand-cut to suit the locking requirements.
Right.
Hence the chart written on the box, which lists the locking. The main alteration we have made is the section signal, and that is the lever with the white band, which is number 14.
Yeah.
The section signal controls the departing stop signal from the station.
Right.
And you cannot pull that lever unless you have a line clear on the block instrument.
Right, so the block instruments and the bells then, they're not ornamental, you're actually using them for communication.
They are doing two things. They're communicating with the other end of the block, which is on the circle section of the railway. They are also providing interlocking over the single track branch line to eliminate conflicting moves. And at the same time, they are permitting the clearance of the appropriate signals. This is done by looking at the polarity of the block, and then a relay with a diode in series determines polarity and allows the appropriate signals to clear. Any not appropriate signals cannot clear.
So essentially this is working like a real railway?
To an extent, yes. Yes. A real railway wouldn't rely on diodes. A model railway you can.
Yes.
But apart from that, the principle is exactly the same.
Brilliant. And as I say, again, very traditional look to it, and it's all very neat and I'd just say beautifully made. I'm guessing the block instruments are not real; they're replicas. They're replicas, and as I say, the bells for communication as well. So you don't actually shout across each other. We do have a telephone, I notice.
We haven't used it today yet, which is how we like.
Excellent.
No, we prefer just the bells.
Excellent. So working very well. Right. Thanks very much. I'm here with Rob now and P4 Yard. Now this is a micro layout.
It is indeed.
And so slightly different requirements for control panels, and you've done something very slightly different here.
Yep.
So can you talk us through how this one works?
Sure, not a problem. So the layout has got a hand-built track. So the points are controlled slightly differently. Because the points as they come don't have a latching mechanism, what we've actually got is a switch underneath the baseboard, which is mounted on the side. That does two things. Number one, it provides a latching mechanism, but it also does the polarities for the points. So we literally move the lever and it changes the point and it changes the polarity at the same point. And the reason it was done like that is about keeping the layout really simple.
So there's not actually a panel at all, is what you're saying. There's holes in the front that with wires to work
Absolutely. There is
the points.
So we do have a little panel, primarily because as you'll see, the layout's on two levels. So, so we can operate either level off either controller. We have a little switch with some, which puts the power to either the top, like Alan's driving at the moment, or we can put the power to the bottom. There are also isolating switches. So outside of shows, my kids like to play with the layout. They like to do a bit of shunting, and we get the silly double headers and things like that. So consequently, there are some isolating switches.
So we've got an electrical panel,
yeah,
and the point operation is done through the bits of wire holding in the front of the baseboard.
Absolutely,
really nice and simple.
Exactly, the whole layout is about keeping things simple, nice and reliable for shows, and it just makes it a joy to operate. It's almost, you know, like you're operating the real points like a real signal.
Perfect. Thanks very much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Right, I'm here with Chris Mead and his layout overlord to look at possibly one of the most home-brewed looking panels we've seen today. Chris, tell us about this. How old is it?
Well, the first show this layout went to was March 1994, and this is of that vintage. So it may look a bit basic, but it has survived.
It's done quite a few miles, hasn't it, this layout?
One or two, yes.
Yes. Now, I'm not seeing any buttons on this, so well, how do we operate the points?
We just point and shoot, basically. So everybody knows how solenoid point motors work.
So this is all H&M point motors, which are double-acting solenoids,
yes,
isn't it?
You'll be able to hear them on the video, and you'll probably be able to see the shake and the vibration as well when they turn. Yeah. So we just touch them and you shoot, and it turns.
So basically you take it, this is what we call stud contact, isn't it? But those aren't studs, those are bolts of some sort.
Those are 4BA brass bolts,
and literally
with a little bit of corrosion
when you touch them with this thing that we're going to call a probe, which appears to be a bit of wire with a plug on the end of it.
Yeah, that's more sophisticated. Normally we just have a bit of wire.
Yeah, and so essentially it just makes the electrical circuit when you do that, and thus throws the point.
That's right.
There's absolutely, I mean, there's nothing to go wrong with this other than breaking the bit of wire.
That's right, and that's the only thing that's gone wrong on this in the last 20 odd years.
Brilliant. Now the other thing is we've got isolating switches, I'm guessing. So you've got some electrical control here as well.
That's right.
But essentially this is as simple as it comes in terms of panels if you're using solenoid point motors.
Yes, and also ordinary DC, not DCC control. So this is standard 12 volt DC. Hence why you've got all these switches for the sections.
Oh, brilliant. So that's what I like, a nice bit of simplicity, which is presumably why it's managed to do all these miles so successfully.
Exactly, and obviously at the time that it was built, this was the standard technology, the standard solution to control panels. Also, there are one or two special features about this control panel. With it being as old as it is, it runs off one of the really old Duet control panels with a 12 volt DC straight out the back. Have to make a special shelf for it so that you've got the space in there. But one of the other important considerations, particularly for long shows, is that shelf must be able to take a coffee mug.
Brilliant. Okay, thanks very much.
Okay, you're welcome.